On Wednesday, April 10th, 2024, a murder written in the stars came full circle. The deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were avenged by a Saturn return. On July 12, 1994, Saturn was at 12 degrees of Pisces, and on April 10th, 2024, a Saturn-Mars conjunction at 14 degrees of Pisces claimed the life of their alleged murderer, Orenthal James Simpson, who died from cancer. The final piece of a puzzle going back 30 years has finally fallen into place. What else can astrology teach us about this murder most foul? The chart of the evening of June 12, 1994, at roughly 10:30 p.m., reveals a Uranus-Neptune conjunction in Capricorn on the ascendant, with both planets retrograde and in opposition to Venus in Cancer. Neptune is illusion and confusion, the unconscious mind. Uranus is radical, unpredictable upheaval and unexpected circumstance. Uranus and Neptune came together in 1993 and were loosely conjunct for the early part of the 1990s. Venus in Cancer was at 27 degrees on the night of the murder. Opposing this destabilizing conjunction, Venus in Cancer is the mother archetype, a female object of desire, representing nurturing and the softer aspects of the feminine. Pluto was retrograde in Scorpio at the time of the murder and was conjunct the north node of the moon. The moon's nodes define where eclipses happen and are indicative of the karmic destiny of a specific moment in time. The north node is karmic acquisition. The south node is karmic release. Pluto, a Scorpio-ruled planet, on top of the moon's north node, emphasizes scorpionic themes of alliances, power play, and obsession. There was a solar eclipse in Taurus on May 10, 1994, roughly 1 month before the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. The sun and moon came together near the south node, the karmic release point, creating a conjunction at 19 degrees of Taurus. The conjunction was opposing Pluto and Scorpio on the north node. Nicole was a Taurus sun, and in many ways, it was like her life was eclipsed and ended by this celestial event. Nicole had her sun at 27 degrees of Taurus, directly opposing her Jupiter retrograde at 27 degrees of Scorpio. Further complicating matters, these points were squaring Chiron, her karmic wound, at 27 degrees Aquarius, and her Pluto at 1 degree Virgo. This grand cross of the Sun opposing Jupiter interlocking with Chiron opposing Pluto was the precipitation of her demise, heralded by the eclipse. This is further emphasized by the fact that at the time of her death, Pluto in Scorpio and the North Node were on top of Nicole's natal Jupiter, opposing her Sun, symbolizing her death, Pluto, and the massive news story and intrigue, Jupiter, that would follow. Venus in Cancer is exceptionally important to understanding the death chart of Nicole and Ron, and also the role that OJ plays in their murder. OJ has his Venus at 1 degree Cancer. Nicole has her Venus at 9 degrees Cancer. Ron has his Venus at 14 degrees Cancer. The murder on June 12, 1994, had Venus at 27 degrees Cancer. What are the odds that all three players in this murder, and the night of the murder itself, would have Venus in Cancer? It's also worth noting that Venus on the night of the murder was conjunct Nicole's Mars in Cancer. Cancer really is the defining energy signature of this murder, given that the night of the murder we also have Mercury retrograde at 8 degrees of Cancer, activating the Cancer Venus of Nicole, Ron, and OJ. This speaks to a female object of desire and nurturing, Venus in Cancer, at the center of a series of misunderstandings and bad timing, Mercury retrograde, that brought about a circumstance of death, intrigue, and notoriety. This is most clearly emphasized by the fact that Ron shouldn't have been at Nicole's home at the time of the murder. He was there returning her mother's reading glasses, which she had left at the restaurant where he worked. Not only was Mercury retrograde in Cancer the night of the murder, but OJ has his natal Mercury retrograde in Cancer. OJ's Mercury was conjunct Venus in Cancer the night of the murder, in opposition to the Uranus-Neptune conjunction. A Mercury opposition to Uranus-Neptune is delusional, unpredictable, and not able to think clearly. The conjunction of Mercury to Venus in Cancer signifies that a woman, indeed the mother of his children, was the root of his overwhelm. OJ's delusional Mercury was emotionally disturbed and looking for vengeance on his object of female desire, Venus in Cancer. Further, OJ's chart carries other indicators of him being violent and abusive, especially where Nicole was concerned. OJ has a Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Leo that was likely the reason for his volatility toward Nicole. Nicole has Uranus in Leo on top of OJ's Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Saturn is domination and the Chronos archetype. Pluto is creator and destroyer. Nicole's Uranus is the great upheaval. And indeed, there was a documented history of abuse in their relationship that culminated in the night of the murder. Why didn't Nicole get out earlier? What was tethering her to OJ? Nicole had Mercury in Taurus opposing Neptune retrograde in Scorpio, meaning that Nicole's focus was on pragmatism and money, Mercury in Taurus, making her delusional, Mercury opposed Neptune, when it came to the magnitude of the danger posed by OJ. There are other inflammatory aspects suggesting a history of domination, obsession, and violence. Nicole's Venus in Cancer was in opposition to her Saturn retrograde in Capricorn. This speaks to her love style, Venus in Cancer, being subdued by an authoritarian and domineering karmic partner. Returning to OJ, we see his natal Jupiter in Scorpio squaring his Saturn-Pluto conjunction and providing an even deeper threat of existential domination to Nicole. The night of the murder, Mars in Taurus was in opposition to OJ's Jupiter in Scorpio and squaring his Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Mars in Taurus is extremely driven, like a bull, unyieldingly charging toward a red flag. Mars in Taurus, opposing OJ's Jupiter and squaring his Saturn-Pluto conjunction, made him go over the edge. His obsession sought the form of ultimate domination, inflicting death on his object of desire. These placements, impacting the Uranus in Nicole's chart, speaks to the surprising whirlwind element of her death. OJ has his moon in the late degrees of watery Pisces, working seamlessly with Pluto in Scorpio on the North Node and also Venus in Cancer on the night of the murder. He was able to successfully pull off the murder and be acquitted because of watery intuition and alliances he was able to wield to his advantage. As a closing thought, it's important to note that Nicole, with her Cancer Venus and Mars, was the connective tissue linking two Cancer men, OJ and Ron. OJ has Venus, the Sun, and Mercury retrograde in Cancer, while Ron has a tight stellium of Mars, the Sun, and Venus in Cancer. Mercury retrograde in Cancer, the night of the murder, activated all three players' Cancer Venus, and in the case of Ron, was directly on top of his Mars-Sun-Venus conjunction, foretelling how his death would be brought about by a miscommunication. There are several indicators in Ron's chart that speak to how poor timing would bring about his demise in an unfortunate, unpredictable way. Ron's natal Neptune retrograde in Scorpio was conjunct Pluto and the North Node the night of the murder. Further, Ron's natal Mercury in Gemini, communication style, is squared by his Pluto, Uranus, and Moon placements. His Mercury in Gemini is also hindered by a very unstable aspect, the quincunx, to his Neptune in Scorpio. As if this wasn't inflammatory enough, Ron's Aries Saturn was destabilized by quincunxes from both his Uranus and Neptune, contributing to him dying a violent, unforeseeable death. I do believe, though, that with Mars, the Sun, and Venus together, he fought, Mars, for a woman, Venus, in distress. I don't think Ron gets adequate acknowledgement for his efforts to save Nicole's life. Let this be a moment of praise for his valiant sacrifice. He could have run, but instead he chose to put his life on the line to try to help Nicole. May Ron and Nicole's souls rest in peace. May Nicole and OJ's children know peace. and may OJ atone for what he has done in the next life.